Are you struggling because you're in your own way and you know it? Our next guest is here to share some strategies to change that. Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, transformational coaches stepping up to be the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the coach's alchemist, on a mission to help coaches and spiritual entrepreneurs amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible, leveraging podcasts and Substack. Today, we are chatting with Cristina Louk.
Lauk.
Oh gosh, I practiced this so many times in my head and still messed it up. Louk. We're speaking with Dr. Cristina Louk today, a licensed mental health counselor with a PhD in clinical psychology. Her work is rooted in integrative trauma-informed approach that blends evidence-based psychotherapy, clinical hypnotherapy, energy psychology, and depth-oriented modalities. What's the Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Man, all these big words, and it's early in the morning for me. I'm going to ask you the big question, and then we'll just kind of dive right in. So,
Yeah.
what's the most significant thing, in your opinion, as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
Yeah. Great question. And it really leads to this theme of practice that I have set up for 2025. And it goes back to that healer, heal thyself. We need to look in and we need to heal some of the things that aren't working for us because what happens is that manifests itself out in the world. And we're seeing that now, with a lot of the things that are going on. And so if we can find peace and compassion and empathy and love for ourselves. And heal, that's going to then extend outward. And then we can start to heal the world and be more a part of it. So, yeah, healer, heal thyself is kind of my mantra for this year. And I think that kind of fits the answer for that question.
I love that, and it's so true. The more that we fix ourselves, because really,
Yeah.
when it boils down to it, we're the only ones we have control over.
Yeah.
Not anybody else or anything else in our environment. We can choose how we're going to respond to things, good, bad, or indifferent. We all have opinions about things, but we don't have to destroy our lives. And sometimes this happens to people. They just get so
Mm.
wrapped up in stuff that they have no control over, that they allow it to like get inside of them and just really wreaks havoc on
Yeah.
them.
It makes them react instead of respond. That's a
Yes.
very different energy in both of those. And when we can respond, we can engage and we can
Mhm.
communicate. But when we react, we throw up this wall. Then our ego just takes the reins and it's
Yeah.
us against them mentality. So yeah, inner work can really help us be more responsive and less reactive.
Yeah, and it opens up the door for curiosity. You don't have to be
Yes.
right all the time. You can just be curious. When you're
Yes.
comfortable with yourself and your own thoughts and your own foundation of who you are, then it's okay to look at other people and say, I wonder what makes you tick
You
and what
got
makes
it.
you special. And it's okay. You can be special. I can honor that in you. I don't have to be that way, but I can honor it in you.
Oh, the curiosity when you do kind of get through the healing journey and you get in touch with your inner spark, that true nature, that
Right.
curiosity, it's like that childlike, just, oh, let me learn more. And it's so fascinating and it's such a beautiful way that we can live. So yeah, curiosity is one of the wonderful little gems at the end of your healing journey. So we can be more curious.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so needed in this world today. More people were curious and less
Agreed.
dogmatic about everything.
Right, right.
Do you really need to be right? There was a saying, I'd rather be happy than right, or get along with you than have to be right about something. It was something like that. I forget how it goes. Anyway, so I'm going to ask you, how does trauma, ADHD, and spiritual emergence often intersect in women's lives?
Yeah, sometimes they intersect in surprising ways, especially for people that are neurodivergent. A lot of neurodivergent people I shouldn't say purport, report's a better word, having some extra intuitive abilities. They're more
Mhm.
connected. So there's this nice little leeway. And I think for me, I also have ADHD. I think that my ADHD really did help me be more connected with my intuitive self. And so there is that connection. And when we have experienced trauma and um, barriers put on our life from like the neurotypical world for ADHDers, oftentimes connecting with our spiritual, we often don't connect with the outside world, right? If we're
Mhm.
experiencing trauma, a lot of us dissociate. We're broken and we're feeling like, oh, I can't trust anybody. ADHD, we already have this difficulty connecting, but if we can get in touch with our spirituality, whoo, the blend, we can now realize that we are more than the trauma we experienced. We are more than the executive functions that we have that are challenged, and we get to then live in a more whole kind of existence. And yeah, we have to deal with symptoms of trauma. We have to deal with symptoms of ADHD, but they are not who we are. And yet we often walk through life with that label on us, trauma survivor, ADHD or autistic. Slap the label on, but we are not that. We are so much
You
more.
that labels are often like they should just say victim on them
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it makes you feel like I'm a victim and I don't have any control. And once you start giving away your control, your
Yeah.
life is over. You may as well sit in front of the TV because
Right.
you're not going
Yeah.
anywhere. It's really sad.
Yeah. Well, you've definitely lost all momentum and movement in your life, and now you have become stuck. And a lot of the clients that come see me, that's exactly where they are. I'm stuck. I'm
Mhm.
stuck. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Well, we need to like, change some stuff, reframe how you view yourself and get you moving on a healing path. And a lot of times it's bringing in more of spiritual. And a lot of my clients, they've been down, spiritual paths, religions,
Mhm.
and that's where they got stuck. And so sometimes it's like, let's take the label of religion off and let's take the label of spirituality off. And let's just look at the path of your soul and see, where your soul's supposed to go. And sometimes that is really, healing and freeing. Like, I don't have to have another label slapped on me. I'm practicing this. Instead, it's like, no, we're going to pull from here and we're going to pull from there. And if it resonates with you, then that's true for you.
Mhm.
So yeah, everyone's path looks real different.
It does look real different and it's okay.
Yeah.
I like that we're getting into a place where we can have conversations like it doesn't matter what you believe. If it
Yeah.
works for you, great. My daughter's,
Yeah.
I have a young daughter, and I used to be very religious, for lack of a better word. And we talked about God a lot, and she's like, it really boils down to love God and don't be a dick. I was like, perfect.
Oh, that is actually great. Yes, that's actually a perfect mantra.
Yeah. I thought so too. I've learned so much from this child.
Oh,
She was sent here to teach me. I'm firmly convinced. And so when you work with people, do you work with them one-on-one in groups? How
yeah.
does
So
the
I work on them mainly right now one-on-one. I have done groups, and I'm going to be forming some new groups in the fall. And yeah, I really meet the person where they're at. And I like to explain, healing journey is like an onion. I can't find a better analogy than an onion. I know they're a sweet onion where, we approach and we usually come into therapy and we're worried about our thinking, right? And so we're doing cognitive behavioral therapy, layer one. And then we get that under control. And then we're dealing with our emotions. Well, that's like dialectical behavior therapy. That's layer number two. And so we're peeling back these layers. And then we get into somatic psychology, depth psychology, EMDR, IFS, the deeper work, another layer. And then we get down to like that center of the onion. And that's where most of these people that I see are like, I've been in therapy for years, but I'm still stuck because they've peeled all these layers. So they've managed their thinking, they've managed their emotions, but they have not gone anywhere on their healing journey, right? And so that's where, coming in and bringing in maybe, some Eastern philosophy or some different, strategies to really kind of move them along now for their soul, because that's what it is. I've got my physical stuff under control, but my soul's stuck. I'm not going anywhere. And so how do we get that moving? So yeah, that's kind of where my work is. And then with my groups, usually it's based on a topic, a lot of psychoeducation, a lot of, community interacting with each other and to help us process. So there's some really great bonding in my groups. And as I said, I'll be bringing those back in the fall.
I like that. So when it comes to trauma and peeling back all of these onion layers, and I totally get what you're talking about. Do you ever find that trauma tends to like keep shrinking into the center, and it gets more condensed? Like we all experience trauma on some level in our lives, but and I think we initially start into this pattern of we want to heal and we do all this work, we control our thoughts and we meditate and we do all the things, but there's still that seed of trauma that just seems like it keeps sinking deeper in. Is that,
Yeah.
do you
And
experience that?
yeah, it's so funny because I actually just had a conversation with a client about how trauma in your body does. It shrinks inward physically. Our muscles tense up. And so over time, all of this comes in. That's why when people do yoga poses like camel or anything with wide opening, they'll burst into tears or they have, panic attacks. Because if we've reached something that was trapped in your body, that trauma trapped, right? And so, yeah, so we see that in your body, but we also see it in how, um, maybe a different way to look at it is maybe it doesn't condense, but your soul steps back and keeps stepping back, and brings other parts of your personality forward to protect it,
Mm-hmm.
some protector parts. And that's why maybe we see people that have like alcoholism, where their soul has pulled back, and when they're hurt, an alcoholic part of their brain will, I'll just drink and soothe it. Right.
Hmm.
Or maybe we'll have another part that will come in and protect the soul from something by having big behavior. So it's more like the soul pulls back. And so how do we again unlayer, pull back all those parts to bring that soul forward in the body, in the energy, in the mind, in the emotions, so then the soul can then just be in its true essence.
Yeah, that that makes total sense. So, what do you think some of the limitations are of traditional therapy, and how can holistic healing help?
Yeah. Oh, well, no, I don't want to put any shade on talk therapy, but talk therapy, it's kind of, we got a little lazy in it. When I'm doing talk therapy, I'm really engaging and like digging deeper and having you have this aha moment. But for a lot of people, they've been through talk therapy and they're like, it's just like I'm chatting with my sister. I'm not really getting anywhere. And so, give me something else. Skill-based stuff is great too. I also use that. So I'm also I'm doing my deep talk therapy, digging in. I'm also giving like skills. Those are great too, up until, well, now I've learned all the skills. And so holistic work can be really great because we are not just our mind. We are not just our body. We are a biofield of electricity. We have so much more to us than just these little parts that we've condensed into symptoms. Like with ADHD, it's all about our executive functioning. So you've condensed my whole life into this tiny lobe of my frontal lobe. Okay, so let's fix that. That's just scraping the surface of the totality of me because I have energetic blockages from that. I have emotional dysregulation from that. I am not connected to my higher self or my spirit guides because of that. So there's so much more. So holistically, if we go and take all of you, the totality of you, then we
Mhm.
really start healing where it feels complete and not where you feel stuck. Like, okay, I fixed that, here I am, now what? Right. And then we go
Yeah.
down to that next layer. Okay, let's work on that then. And so how I approach it is like, let's like all the layers. Let's get all the layers out and let's just heal all of you, focusing on all pieces.
So how does that actually look? I mean, do you do physical activities? Is it, I presume that it would include some talk therapy, but um,
Yeah.
in some of the other modalities you use.
Yeah, it's a real blend and it looks different every single time. But I'll give you an example of a client I saw last week because it's a great kind of show you how it all kind of breaks down. A client comes in and I will always ask because we always want to deal with the most, pressing problem, anything that went on in the last week or 2 weeks that we want to talk about, right? And so I start with talk therapy. Sometimes it's, yeah, this I'm really struggling with this emotion. Great. Well, then let's process that emotion. So we will start with like doing some cognitive behavioral therapy. Maybe it is, do we need to reframe that thought that you're having? Do we need to put a skill in for the emotion? How are you feeling in your body? Oh, I feel really tight in my body. Okay, well, let's do some breathing. So we'll do some like pranayama. And so, oh, we really feel tight in the chest. What would it feel like if you just expanded what does that feel like? Right. And so we kind of go through all of it. Talk therapy helps start it, but then we're going with like, let's look at our thoughts, let's look at our emotions, what's in our body. How is your energy? Right? Are you feeling stagnant? Are you feeling hyperactive? Have you balanced your chakras recently? Most of my clients do energy work on themselves. So we're really looking totality. How are you sleeping in your dreams? And I do some hypnotherapy as well, meditation. I pop it in, like whatever the client needs in the moment, because I believe that if we're doing healing in the moment, the client will feel good and they feel like they're moving. Well, they don't feel like they're moving. They are moving on their
Mhm.
path because they're starting to feel complete, right?
So that kind of brings us to what does healing actually look like for somebody that works with you?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I've been on my healing journey for years, and I've done that whole peeling of the onion where I started, with my thoughts, and I did that whole modality, and then I did this modality and this modality, and I've done all the modalities. And then I kept, feeling stuck, and I'm like, what does it even feel like to feel, fully healed? And then I did a lot of work through the Yoga Sutra and really getting, a real handle on what's going on with my mind and a real handle on meditation and mindfulness
Mhm.
and really meeting my inner self, my true higher self. And wow, it's calm, it's quiet. Healing feels peaceful. It feels no matter what a couple of years ago, if I bounced a check, I would have panicked. My nervous system would have, I would, my sympathetic nervous system, my heart would have been racing. I would have felt flushed. Today, I would just go, oh, I'm human. I made a mistake. I will go take care of it. Right. The panic is gone because I've realized that curiosity. I have this gift of this human body to explore this wonderful world. So why am I panicking? Bouncing a check is an experience, right? Oh, I made a mistake. Now I have to learn from that mistake and figure out how not to make it again. And wow, I learned something. What a beautiful thing. So why aren't we learning or enjoying what we're learning? And why are we panicking? Right? This is a gift.
Or feeling anxious about stuff.
Yeah.
So many people live in anxiety and it robs them of their sleep, it robs them of their health, and it's not
Yeah.
doing anything. There's just so many things that you have no control over. Just,
Right. Right. It robs them of the experience of their life.
yes.
Right?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
relationships,
very
because
much.
you just can't have a you can't have a reciprocal relationship with someone if you're always feeling anxious about whatever situation you're in, that you can't just be present because your nervous system is going crazy.
Your nervous system and then your monkey mind, right? You got all
Yeah.
the ruminations and you're not present. But healing you are present and you're able to be present. And when you've kind of reached, we've never reached the end of our healing journey. Our human bodies, the quirks of life always creep back in. And so it's this living practice of going, oh, that thought, that feels a little like a soap opera. I'm just making that stuff up. I'm going to push it away and I'm going to focus on something else. So it's always, you become in this practice of pushing out the stuff that makes you anxious, and bringing in truth and knowledge and what's right and the good stuff. So it's a lifelong practice. You're never fully healed. But again, that's the experience of life. We are
Mhm.
here. Our soul's journey is to learn. So let's learn instead of hiding our head in the sand because we're scared. Because, oh, the bank called and I bounced a check, right? And then we hide our head. Instead, we
or
just got to
or
embrace
stuff that
life.
happens to other people that we accept responsibility for when we have no
Mm,
control over. The kids is a
right.
good example of that. A lot of times moms will get a call from the school, your kid is acting up. Therefore, you were a terrible person, is the next thing that most
Mm,
mothers think. It's like somehow I failed my child, not, hey, my kid's having a day.
right.
Exploring, allowing that child to explore what actually went on. We just take it on
Right.
ourselves, so we're robbing ourselves of joy and we're robbing the kid of an experience to learn.
Right. And we become reactive, right?
Hmm.
Then, oh,
Yeah,
you're in trouble. I'm going to ground you. You can't use your, tablet. Instead of being
yeah,
responsive, going, ooh, yeah, what made you do that? Like, what was going
yeah.
on? Like, let's really dig in. So, you were hurt. You were trying to protect yourself or you reacted,
Mhm.
finding more out. Because I think kids kind of feel like when you're just always constantly reacting, they don't learn how to process and regulate their own emotions because they're in this
Right.
mode, right?
Mhm.
So yeah. Oh,
They never learn how to be there. They tend or be curious because they're in the defensive mode. And when you're in the defensive mode, you can't afford to be curious. All you can do is try to be safe, and they aren't the same. A safe
right.
person, a person who's confident in themselves and has done a lot of the inner work, and they can afford to be curious. But I think it really helps parents if they get a handle on what's going on in their own lives so that they don't screw up the next generation.
Yeah, that ancestral trauma and mother hunger is real. Yeah, we have to be very aware of how we are as parents, so we don't perpetuate the stuff that our parents did and their parents
Mhm.
did to them. Right, that cycle for sure.
Yeah, and I don't think we ever get through childhood without being traumatized in one way or
Yeah,
another, and having grace towards parents because
yeah,
honestly, they were just little kids when they watch. When you
right.
get out to the other end and look back, you're like, wow, I put a lot of pressure on that human being.
Right. And oftentimes, with my clients with ADHD, especially with my adults that were diagnosed as adults, their
Mhm.
parents also pretty much also probably were neurodivergent, but were never diagnosed.
Yeah.
And so, we have to also realize, ooh, was that maybe undiagnosed ADHD? They had no control over that. They didn't know, right? It gives you this different way to look at their behavior with some more compassion and empathy, instead of they weren't just being evil people. They were just doing the best they could with what they had.
Yeah. I have a daughter that's very neurodivergent. Another one that claims she's neurodivergent, but I just think she's artistic. And those kinds of people just like they're just the way they are. And the first one had all kinds of problems in schools and in school, and it was in the 80s when, they were just starting to get the idea that ADHD is something. And they were really cruel to her. I mean, some of the
Mm,
the teachers were just like, if I were the person I am now back then, I would have said, to heck with you. I'm taking her out and I can educate her better on my own. But I was also part of a system of beliefs that it wasn't available to her. But my older kids got to experience that.
mm. The systems, I was diagnosed in 1980. And
Mhm.
at that time, girls don't have ADHD, especially, but I was hyperactive jumping out of trees, and they were like, you got to do
Mhm.
something with that one.
Yeah.
Um, and, it's, yeah, I feel it was really bad. It was, for me anyway, it was really bad back then. The
Mhm.
system was not set up for me to be successful in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And I really hope it gets better. And for my kids, they wasn't set up for that. They're neurodivergence either. And I really hope that it starts to get better because, every child, every student has immense abilities. And, you know, um, when I was diagnosed, they gave me an IQ test, and they wanted to put me in special ed, but I
Mhm.
actually had a very high IQ. But
Yeah.
the school couldn't, they didn't accept that. They already labeled me this way. Although they advanced me to the advanced reading level from remedial reading to advanced reading, because I was reading college books,
Mhm.
they really struggled, with that. And uh, I could have gone so much farther than I did. I didn't get my PhD until I was, in my 40s, because the schools made me feel like I couldn't do anything. Gosh, if the schools could just see each kid as an individual, and how do they learn? Are they, auditory, visual, are they, kinesthetic? Help them, because ah, some of these kids are getting lost, and they're brilliant, and they have so much to give. And the school is just letting them, not doing anything with them. So I'm really hoping that we
My
see some
my
changes in the
personal feeling
system.
is that you should just keep your kids home. Not have school at home, just keep them home. They can learn everything they need to know to succeed in life in 2 or 3 years. And
Yeah.
I did it with 3 kids. I know that it's a fact in my worldview.
My
I never
son,
graded them. I never made them do anything. I allowed them to learn to read, and then I allowed them to go to an alternative school for high school so they could get that little piece of paper that said,
right.
you you graduated. And also to, make sure that they got the basics that they were supposed to have, and to prove to my
Yeah.
husband that I really was educating them on some level. They're all successful human beings. All of my kids are extremely successful. I have 5 of them. But I didn't I didn't push them when they were little. I let them
Yeah.
do what they wanted and explore what they wanted. And now
And they blossomed.
they blossomed. When you try to put kids in a classroom and say, I'm going to penalize you if you don't do things exactly like I tell you to do, and then you make them feel like there's no way to succeed.
Right.
And nobody is good at everything, really good at everything. Usually you're good at one or two things. And to make people have to get A's in everything, that's the dumbest thing ever. Because
Yeah.
we're people. People aren't designed to
Yeah.
be good at everything.
Well, and we're not designed to be just grouped up in like a group. We're individuals, and we really need to allow ourselves to develop that, and I think that's a part of what's going to go back to your first question, to be able to develop our individuality again.
Yeah,
We got a lot of group think going on these days, and we need to start developing um the beauty of who we are as individuals. Yeah.
yeah, I like that a lot. So, how do you work with people? I know you work in one-on-one and in groups and stuff, but how do people get in touch with you and maybe start that process?
Yeah, so visit my website, peacehumanistic.com. There's tons of information. The resource section will take you to, I have a YouTube channel for some tips and tricks for ADHD. I am starting a yoga channel, which I will be putting on that resource page
Okay.
in the next few months. Any of my groups, everything will be on there. There's a link to book a consultation with me. You can just go right there. It'll show you what I have available. You can just book and get that all set up. I
Mhm.
can see clients right now in Washington, Florida, and North Carolina, but I'm expanding states as we go. So who knows if I'm not in your state yet, I will be soon, but definitely reach out to me. I also am going to be doing some courses that are just, um, you know, where they're just going to be videos that you watch that will give you some extra training, which you don't need to be, you can be in whatever state to access those. That will be coming out in the fall too. So everything on the website. Yeah, just go to the website, explore it, and you'll learn more about me.
Awesome. I thank you so much for joining us today, Christina.
Oh, thank you.
To learn more about Dr. Christina and to schedule your 15-minute consultation, please visit peacehumanistic.com, and we'll be sure and put that link in the show notes below. Thank you for tuning in with us today. If you have a podcast or are interested in starting one to get your message in front of our huge and active audience, be sure to reach out to us at support@heartlifecoach.com. We love to help spiritual entrepreneurs and coaches amplify their voice and monetize their mission, and offer a variety of ways to do this on Substack. Join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.